Welcome everyone to another video, and today we are looking at what if civilization started over to human scenario. Now this scenario has kinda had a bit of a stop from its usual daily upload, and that's because my birthday is in 3 days and tomorrow I'm meeting up with friends. So I'm making 2 videos, and if you guys don't know what these are, because I don't think you even saw these in the other video, but the previous 1 hour long episode, that's where these things start to arrive. Basically, people just got news slowly from the Arabic nations over here, not nations but people, that there were nations over here and they were like this huge structure, and some Arab peoples actually went up to the Egyptian area and were like, yo, what are you doing? And they just told them they are doing, what the system was, and it slowly trickled down all the way into China and Korea was the first one to make a full-on nation. And they have just had a large expansion wave over here where they did a lot of expansion. We also see that an old nation over here got kind of puppeted. It's going to get annexed, but these areas are in the process of annexation. And our first event happens to be an annexation of these lands that are in the areas around here. So we see that some of these areas will be actually start to be governed fully as bandits start to show themselves less and less. That just means more and more land to be governed. And we quickly see that this causes the rest of this to be governed, and we also see that after that a large amount of these guys, these people over here, will start a full-on migration up north to take more land. Now they do this with kind of a thing of, well, motivation. They do this with motivation to expand these lands, grow their nation's size and their dynasty. And if you guys want to know where these people lie, these are mostly in that, but we do see some southern Chinese people over here being subject to these guys. As you can see, they are kind of over here. So if I did something like, something like this down below here, there's like southern Chinese and this is northern Chinese. So these people are more resistant to these people, but these people are like, okay, we went down here, we like these areas, we're not gonna stop just going down here. We also see this nation, it's quite powerful in the rankings, it would be the first around here. And I haven't yet done anything for these guys. Wait, do I have even a ideology thing? I do not. I think I'm just gonna make that soon. But we do see that after a long time of exploration, these guys managed to do a lot, and they even managed to push into some occupied bandit lands that are more up north, but they managed to clear some of these lands out, like all the way over here around these 3 areas, well, the areas up north, and over here too, where they just did that and managed to take these areas. Now over here they see that they could do a lot of expansion around here, so they do so. A lot of the people are sent out to see what is over here. Some of them are told, okay, you go over here, you find out what's over here, and if you do and settle those lands even further and even develop them, we are going to give the first person who was there baron status, or county owner or something like that. And as we can see, some of these people actually go as far as to expand these areas up over here and just connect them up because, well, yeah, they would like to do so. There's even a large amount of people who go over here to be like, yeah, we are part of this nation, but we don't like to be very much governed. So yeah, these areas are kind of in this area's occupational area, but they aren't yet governed. This nation over here, this dynasty, does the same as this guy, but they just do it a bit different, where they change up the strategy where they want to go, and they want to go all the way over here, expanding their nation quite a lot. Over here, they decide to do something similar, but only in smaller and smaller quantity, as they don't really want to expand as much as they want to just control these areas. And they do so quite well. They manage to gain control of all of this, and they even push a bit in the areas that they don't control, although this costs them a bit of manpower to do, because some of them are very against these guys over here. These guys are also forced to give over some lands that they have, so these guys could have a better border. And these guys that were subject to being allies with these guys kind of just don't care, but that's their leader. Everyone else in these areas who are pushed out of their homes and who has lived there, they don't like it, and they kind of just go and rebel in the best way possible, and that's by just going up north and making a few like warrior groups in this sense that these guys are warrior parties that are large in number, and they all claim to be one large people, but they always fight amongst each other because lack of resources or lack of proper food. So yeah, some that are even towards the south actually go a bit more south to actually gain lands over here that they can take over and use to launch attacks on the expanding peoples over here, who, as you can see, have decided to expand a lot. These guys actually like to expand into these areas, and as we can see, they make themselves quite a large nation. And these two are going to get a soon-to-be political marriage, which will kinda do a bit of stuff. But we see that this nation, after long times, are not being seen. Not seen. Thank you, Discord messages. Thank you, whoever sent those things. I do not care. I don't give a hell. And that's just my mentality. We also see that in a short skirmish along the border, the Korean Ailong dynasty is forced to give up some lands, and they are forced out of these lands fully. And people are just like, you know what? This area, we cannot govern it. Just whoever wants it can take it. And as we can see, these guys over here, this is the Ailong dynasty, and these guys just pushed over here. So they kind of just use their superior knowledge of these areas to gain more land, and they did so over here again, but this time it was kind of bad for them because their people were seen going across the border and just becoming delinquents. So our borders were closed with this guy, but with this guy they were just kept open. But we quickly see that in a small little hiccup of this guy, these guys sent a few of their best ships. Yes, these guys have ships. They kind of just adopted the technology from the arriving people to go through, who survived the journey over here. And if you go by land, you're not gonna survive, but if you go by sea, you have a 2% chance of surviving. So yeah. We'll see how these guys will just kind of do some stuff, and the first thing that they will do is invade over here, and they will continue their invasion down this coastline until they decide to move over here to destroy these forces who are defending the capital. The capital is right over here, and they do manage to take it, but in a shock of events, as we see, this nation manages to reach a border over here, only to see that forces from Ailong have reached these areas already and have assimilated them into their own nation. Seeing as this nation over here has given up its lands, only to just not really care if they lose them. They can just give them up. So yeah. But as we see, these two islands are also taken, and in a shocking turn of events, Ailong will declare direct war on the forces over here and starts to liberate these areas, retaking the old capital of the Pink Nation and managing to surround this island and even landing a few forces on it. With this, we also see that some of these forces that are actually taken over here give up and surrender, giving these guys a very good chance to interrogate and kind of torture these people that invaded the Ailong ally. But quickly we see that Ailong will not be able to push past this passage over here, as forces from here manage to well, how do I say this? Come and arrive here. They managed to arrive in time and managed to defend these areas. But after that, we also see that Ailong forces will give up and just take the lands that they have. And these guys sued for peace, one of the first times that they actually did so. But in doing so, they gave up the ability to actually control these areas because, well, their neighbor control is like all the way over here to all the way over here. If I do it correctly, we can have something like this. As we can see, this is their naval defend. How do I say naval territories? Yeah, that's their naval territories. Well, this guy has a much larger but yet smaller sphere of influence in these areas, having managed to cut off a few of their northern were not so good allies. As you can see, they have managed to do quite a lot of taking over these areas, and these guys are only forced to have this area under the direct control, which they don't really like. But after they lose these areas, because, well, yeah, these two kind of was fighting over this area, and, well, the result of that was that these guys weren't that happy about it. No one really was in these two areas, but, well, yeah, that was the result of some things. We will also see that a further exploration will lead to the discovery of more lands over here, leading to also a large portion of South Korea being also found out about. Now, after South Korea was found out about, ships were used to go down south, and people started to go even more and more south until they reached the Jeju Island, if I'm correct. I might be, I don't know. But after they reached this island, they were able to fully inhabit it, and people started to also inhabit its surroundings. As we can also see, after finding out about more of the southern parts of Korea, or the Korean peninsula that is, we quickly see that northern Korea was also entered, the northern Korean areas, and these areas were quickly discovered and explored, leading to large-scale exploration around here. And the Ailong dynasty also funded many operations into these areas to find out what was around here. Turns out going this way isn't a good idea, because eventually you will reach a very, 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 very cold area, and you don't really want to stay there, so you kind of give up on that. But maps do show that area as the Deadlands, and you cannot go there unless you're, well, yeah, kind of stupid. You need to be stupid to go into these areas. Also, I forgot that some of these areas need to be discovered. So we have these areas being, known about. But the southern areas don't know about these areas. This guy kind of does, because they sent out people and they found these people, and they almost all died trying to find out about these areas. But most of them do manage to hold on to the idea that, yo, maybe these people aren't that bad, they just don't care about us, and we don't need to really care about them, but we do care about them, and yeah, we should kind of care about them. But the more north you go, the colder it gets, so they stop around here, and people start to also go around into these areas, discovering a lot of, and I mean a lot of territories, and even some people find out about more islands. That's just the people who are over here. They just kind of discover around here, and same with the Taiwanese. But quickly we see that even in the mountain ranges over here, it is no stranger to being explored. And we quickly see that some of these areas that are explored are quickly used as lands to justify any sort of discovering of new areas. And some of the yellow guys over here go into the desert over here that, let's just say, isn't that very good of a desert to be in, but people just do go into it, and they either don't come back, or they are found, and then the guys who found them don't come back, or those guys who found those guys found the other guys, found those guys, and then came back and told them this area is just death. So explorations go very much south, but further explorations over in more of this central southern region is very much successful. And as we can see, all of these areas that are discovered manage to be actually quite good for these people, as they find out about the Tibetan areas. Now the Tibetan areas, very mountainous, they manage to diverse them somehow, and a few areas that do have water over here are also known about. And as we can see, they just make a large whole. But as you can see, these three these dynasties over here are larger than most other nations in Europe. But that's because the European nations have a lot of smaller ones with them, and the idea of village structures are also still there. Now if I take away the village thing, you can see that there are possibly, if I were to what was it, take off that, then as you can see, these guys have some areas in the Turkic lands and some areas in the Neanderthal lands. So this area over here, connecting up over here, is basically the Neanderthal border. The border with the Neanderthals. And, well, it kind of goes unsaid, but the Neanderthals and the Thessalonians do not understand each other. It is not said about anything. No one talks about it. But these guys don't understand anything about each other. They don't even understand who they are. Like, the uncanny valley thing is like very much in progress over here, and it quickly becomes quite a nightmare for whoever kind of lives here. But as we are about to see, people are going to go into these areas and like, you know what, why not? And some of these areas are just, well, I gotta get rid of this. Are discovered and well found out about by the nation over here, who decides that after a lot of exploration and expansion, they really do want. Wait, let me check. Yeah, I just had to make sure, or I can even make more sure with this, and I was right. There are some lands that are that, but we're about to see them not very much be the same, as after that this discovery that there were peoples over here that were Neanderthal, and they were in this nation, Thessalonican Empire, as I want to say now, have given this land over to the nation over here, who have decided to just take this over and take the rest of these areas that are, well, in their lands. These are the Bulgarian peoples, so we see a large Bulgarian state coming into existence. And over here we do see that people do manage to expand, with this guy being the largest to expand into these areas, well, making the largest expansion, but this guy kind of trumps it in in expansions. And we also see this guy doing the same, but when the Sapiens over here are told to get out of this nation, a large amount of Sapiens will come in and attack these peoples. The first time anyone has attacked each other in this world, but quickly we see the Sapiens were just some raiding parties and these guys weren't involved, so they just gave this over to these guys. And this area kind of got subjugated after help from this area. And we also see that after that, large amounts of wait a second, these guys are multi. Oh shit! Oh my god! These guys are multi-ethnic, meaning they can fuck. I have no words. I have zero words to defend myself in this case. I have no words to speak of. But yeah, we see that these nations quickly just after seeing that this, I'm just gonna split them up. Anyone who was supporting these areas, I'm very much sorry, but I had to do this. I had to. It was inevitable. It was inevitable because these two have different dialects, different ways of speaking, but they aren't the same people. But yeah, so we'll see that the rest of these areas down south will actually be split by these two nations who will promptly just take these areas, and Thessaloniki will be like, nah, not like that, but they will take some of these areas under their belts, creating a very good looking Thessaloniki. Well, I'm actually going to pull them back a bit. I still want this to be a bit more round somehow. I want it to be round, but it's not, so it's kind of bugging me. You know what? I'm just gonna say that the Thessaloniki was given was actually told that these areas kind of wanted to join it, so they went and gave an ultimatum to Thrace, and Thrace was like, yo, if you don't invade us, we'll give you these lands. That's just what we'll see. And news of the first city also came around these areas, so people might start making cities, who knows. But we do see a lot of things happening over here, but we see an equal amount of things happening when we do see something very, very, very weird happening in Iberia. And that's the arrival of the Carthaginian forces in this little village over here, where they start to go on and invade the local areas around here. Now, after a long time of not doing anything with these lands that they just conquered, that's Carthage and these areas too, well, actually they kind of consolidated the gains, and that's all they did. But after a long time of not doing much, we do see that Carthage will do something very, very unlikable for the Carthaginian people. But for the Carthaginian elite, they're like, you know what, let's do this. And the Carthaginian emperor is leading this whole campaign in Spain. And as we can see, they quickly managed to gain a lot of lands under the belt. And after doing so, they will go on and take these two villages under the belts too, just so they can take these areas. But after reaching these areas that are unfortunately already occupied by the Valencian nation, who managed to actually expand for a long time, we see that after Carthage managed to consolidate its gains, war will not be said indefinitely. But we do see that the Carthaginian emperor will be sending his army into Valencia. Now, Valencia, since its founding, has been one of the only truly Iberian nations. They have done nothing to deserve invasion, but the Carthaginian emperor does so anyway, and they take their first villages over in the south. And as they do so, they manage to push forward even more, making themselves quite a large force as they start to use their people newly gained areas and the newly gained population over here to their advantage, using those peoples in their army as cannon fodder. They use them by putting them on the front lines and just invading whatever nation and whatever like area over here by sending it the vanguard, who are made up of these new people. And once done, and once they're either like destroyed or something like that, they are forced back into battle just because the Carthaginian forces just want to. We quickly see that occupation areas will start to show themselves as the more occupied areas that were initially occupied were used as staging grounds for anything else. And we see that after that, a large amount of land was kind of just taken over here. I don't know. I think they haven't found anything over here, but yeah. Quickly we see that after such a large campaign, the Emperor of Carthage will take his army, and he will march his army through the Valencian nation, going up against the Valencian High Guard, or as the Valencians call them, the defensive guard of the Valencian capital village. And the Emperor of Carthage will win this battle, using his forces to his advantage and using the people that he managed to trick into joining his nation against the enemy, who he has now managed to subjugate. And he has also managed to take over these areas, cutting off supplies for this village. Cutting them very much off of any help and supplies is very much of a tactic the Emperor over here is using. And once they surrounded this village, they managed to actually destroy it in some way by killing all of its men and enslaving whatever other forces. And the first time enslaving people has, well, been done in this world. Well, slaves have been introduced a long time ago, but those slaves were either from Neanderthal lands or just from other areas. And those slaves are all the way over here and all the way over, like, over here, because these guys just kind of raid down the coast over here and take whoever they can prisoner. But the first time prisoners are used for war, we see them that, well, not prisoners but slaves are used for war and taken in war. They are called the conflict slaves, or war slaves to be known in the future. And slavery has started to gain some uproar, as we do see that the Carthaginians will happily take over the lands over here, but they will not be able. Wait, what was that? What the hell was that? I have never. Huh? Shift control and shift plus control plus C set is like this? Like, damn, bro, nah. But we quickly see that the Carthaginian Emperor, in his own words, will be forcing, well, in his words, will be forcing all of these people of Valencia to give up their, sovereignty, and he will puppet the rest of Valencia, declaring it a fourth republic of, well, not republic, but fourth state of the Carthaginian forces. And quickly he will also take the Valencian lands over here near the coast, just to cripple them a bit more and just to be an ass. Which he also does for fun. He wants to see them be crippled and that. But after doing so, and after the Valencian people managed to scatter all over the areas over here, those who managed to survive, of course, we quickly see that many of these people will actually start to force themselves into larger and larger groups, and in a very weird union of, well, lands, we see some Neanderthal peoples actually managing to understand these guys, although they do have differences. The Sapiens and the Neanderthals do manage to do some other stuff. And over here we also see a large community of Neanderthal people actually joining in the fighting for these people. And we quickly see some tribes over here of Sapien origin just starting to manage to become nations. And we also see that over here near Lisbon, a Lisbonian empire has been declared. Although this empire is still small, it is seen as one of the greatest tribes to ever exist, because it has subjugated the local villages and it has done a lot. We also see that this this whole thing over here will take over these areas, but they will be beaten out by the Lisbonian Empire, who do manage to take these areas. I don't know why I'm lagging over here. But we do see that after that the Lisbonian Empire will do a lot more, and that is by expanding up north, taking up a very much of a very weird shape, and in a very, very large move by both Carthage and Lisbon. What was this? You know what? I'm actually gonna use this card for once. I'm gonna make a multi thing. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. No, not gonna happen. But we're gonna see some Valencian guys over here just tell the Iberians, yo, we need to unite under one banner and destroy the Carthaginians, which they do, and the Carthaginians are like, yo, that's not cool. Also, if you do that again, we'll just destroy you. And then it happens again, and they're like, you know, we're just not gonna do it. It's a waste of your resources. Even though the Emperor is like, we need to do it, otherwise we'll be in the future invaded. His sons and his generals are like, no, we're not gonna do it. It's a waste of resources. We just let the future generations just deal with it. And they wouldn't know it, but doing so will actually cost them their entire empire in the future. I'll tell you how soon. But we'll see that after the invasion of that area, the Carthaginian Emperor will launch an invasion into these areas, and with a large amount of forces also arriving from the north, from the Lisbonian Empire. We see that the Lisbonian Empire will be the first to actually invade before the Carthaginian forces do, but in their invasion they do manage to only take a bit of land before reaching in down south over to the coastal areas. And we do see that after doing so, they will be stopped by a tribal union of tribes over here. That actually, this is a tribal union. This is a nation of tribes, basically. And after that, we do see that a large amount of areas over here are taken under the Carthaginian forces, because, well, these tribes weren't ready for the Carthaginian invasion. And after a large amount of Carthaginian troops also spilled over in this nation, which the nation was like, yo, stop, please, we are just new, we don't want to go to war at all. And the Emperor of Carthage was like, alright, we're not gonna invade you, but we're gonna take some of your lands, because we just want your lands. We just want your lands. The Carthaginian Emperor will be sending some of his forces down more south to take over the coastal areas, seeing them as vital for his empire, while he himself will go over here to fight the Battle of New Canaan. These two lakes are called Canaan, the twin lakes of Canaan. And the Battle of the Twin Lakes of Canaan will see a Carthaginian victory at high costs, as their emperor is killed in the battle, leading to his son, one of his eldest son, who was on the trip with him, to take lead. And his eldest son is much more of an ass, to be honest. Once he meets up with the Lisbonian forces, who are like us, we're also doing the same as you are. Plus, we have already taken these areas, and we have already pushed down here. He's like, cool, give us your lands. And the Lisbonians are also forced to give over the lands over here. And after doing so, they are also forced to give over some of these coastal areas, which they took rightfully. But the Empire of Carthage, the son of the Emperor of Carthage, who came into power, will be like, we don't care, we just want your land. And after doing so, we see that over here, in the Carthaginian areas that they took, these areas will be fully assimilated into the Carthaginian Empire, as these areas were starting to be kinda pains in the asses for the Carthaginian emperor, and he was like, you know what, how about we just take away the sovereignty? They're not gonna have a nation anymore. And the Carthaginian emperor, the new one, was like, this is a great idea, let's do it. His brothers were like, yo, that's diabolical, that we cannot do that's just too much. And the oldest brother was like, I'm the oldest brother, you have to listen to me, shut up. And the two younger brothers were like, alright, we're gonna shut up. But the worst thing about it was that once they shut up, they saw how their brother just went full on megalomaniac and declared himself the true emperor, and his father should have died before. He went kind of crazy because of a few things. But we quickly see that after the Empire of Lisbon will also go on a rampage over in the north, seeking to expand their lands over here. Although they do manage to take these lands. They do manage to only take a small amount of land, actually. They don't take too much because the tribes over in the north are very much against them. They don't want to be subjugated. And after seeing the success of the militaries over here, a few more nation states will actually come into existence. Yes, I'm saying nation states because some are smaller than nations and the other are states. Like this nation, which calls itself a nation because it's surrounded by three nations. Yes, three, because Galicia. You have some land that is Galician population discovered. Well, I'm just gonna give these guys their Galician populations because, well, yes, this is the Galician people, and the Galician people will be like, yo, if this is our lands, let's just keep on taking it. And as you can see, some of these areas are Portuguese. These are the Portuguese people. And after seeing the Lisbonian Empire doing so well, some of these Portuguese people will be like, yo, how about just joining these guys? And they will do so, although at the cost of some of these areas just not being, well, fully just taken into account. But this state over here will manage to hold out, but after a few years it sees a large amount of rebellious groups unite, separatist groups on its border that are funded by the Lisbonian Empire. And during these years something else happens across the Mediterranean, but we see that this separatist group will manage to get control of the northern areas and the southern areas, and they will push out the forces over here who will be forced to escape. And after that, the Portuguese Empire will take these areas, although they will claim these areas. They are unable to hold them. And we also see that the Portuguese Empire kind of funded also some separatist groups. Although the separatist groups wanted to join these areas, they would force to join these guys, otherwise they will to be invaded and destroyed. And same over here, which I'm just doing because I want to. Alright? Nothing else. We also see these areas were forced into this guy because, well, these guys didn't want to keep being the same thing. And we also see that a last nation will come up into existence over here. Although after that, For the Neanderthals, the first Estonian nation, and well, how do I say this? Livonic, or well, not Livonic, but the first nation of the Estonian peoples will come into existence, and it will be one great nation. As you can see, it managed to invite the people, well, the tribes over here, and kill them. They killed all the tribes over here, all the tribes leaders, and they just took control. That was like 100 people who did so, but it was 100 against 50. What are you supposed to do? It's like a 2v1. And after doing so, they did the same for the islands over here. Although this island was kind of more meaningful, each village owner kind of just joined these guys willingly. And as we see, the Estonian peoples are going to meet their rivals, as after seeing the success of the Estonians over here, a very large force of Lithuanian peoples on the borders over here will start to force themselves to, well, not force themselves, but they will force each other into submission until one comes out top, and he will declare the Latvian Emperor, the Kingdom of Latvia, to be something that comes into existence, of course. But after doing so, he will be quite an ass, and he will be quite very much not liked by his people. But he does take power over here, and he does not care who is against him, as long as they are unable to fight him. He's alright. We do see that the counter kingdom over here of Latvian peoples too does come into existence. Although down south there's just 2 more nations that come into existence. They are irrelevant, but they do exist. So yeah. But the Estonian peoples over here kind of join up with their northern Estonian brothers. I'm gonna quickly see the greater kingdom of Estonia being established, and with that we have a lot of new nations coming into the Mediterranean epoch, or something like that. Because of this Neanderthal nation becoming into existence, we also see something else, like this this nation just comes into existence after a few months. They do. Trust me, bro. Trust me. But we do see that a large French people will come into agreements into one large nation. They will unite under the banner of Provence, and they will do so with very large support from the other people around here. Also, Florence, I know your name now. I'm sorry, Florence, but you're gonna get some rebellions. As we see, the southern Florentian people are unhappy with their king, and they are going to rebel. Even these islands are going to rebel, but for a different reason. And we quickly see that the southern Florence people are very angry, and they don't want to be angry, but they are forced to do so because the king is just ignoring them. They are in famine, actively. They're actively in a famine state, and it's just going bad for them. And the king doesn't care because he's in his little castle over here. And same with the northern guys over here, but the northern guys are more separatist, because these guys are not Florentian people. These are Venetian troops who quickly move into Florence and occupy these 3 villages, quickly taking this one as well. But if we go into political disputed areas, these are the lands that are disputed, and quickly we see that to secure these areas, Florence will not be able to do anything, because Venice just sends their forces to collect the lands, as they say, like collect these lands for ourselves. And as they do so, they are sending out people actively to capture whatever lands that they can, because At this point, these guys don't want to push up north. They know about about people over here, the Germanic peoples, and the Germanics are very against them. They don't like them. The Germanic Neanderthals are heavily anti sapien people. They don't like the sapiens. They have the uncanny valley thing. They are looking at the sapien people across the fucking river, and they're saying, "Yo, they are different. Let's hate them." And they do. They do hate them. They do not like them. But after seeing this whole rebellion down south and the invasion, the Florentian king will pathetically give up, which will cause both of his sons to give up on him, and they will declare their own nations. Or, of course, one of these nations will have to be kinda cannon fodder, because this guy's also being invaded, but he has large aspirations to be a Venetian friend, and as he does so with grace, because the Venetians, this time they only take what they came to take, and they just don't care who it is who they just invaded. The Florentian people will be forced out of their homes during the invasion, and quickly we see that after that the forces over here that kind of came into these areas will continue to send these people out of the lands over here. These areas will be given over to this guy, and we see that the southern Florentian Republic will come into existence. Although these islands over here will join Corsica because they like Corsica more, and they don't really like the Florentian king. The Florentian king will also be given back some territory, as he was kinda the first one to give up. But over here, this son manages to gain these territories back, although some border territory is taken over, and this actually creates this two human scenario. I'm just thinking right now. It creates kind of this interesting dynamic, like how do the sapiens react to the slave trade of Neanderthals when they see Neanderthals? How do they react? And surprisingly, I have 3 different thoughts of it. Down over here, there's direct 2 nations that are like bordering the Neanderthal people, and there's another who is raiding it down the coast. And the Neanderthals do like these 2 people. They are nice to them. They like them. They don't really talk to each other, but they are nice to them. But for these guys who constantly raid them, they always fight against them. Sometimes they do win, and they capture these sapiens only to kill them because they don't want to be like the sapiens over here. But soon they will be kind of different. But the sapiens, when they win, they will raid a village, particularly one of these guys on the coast areas, and to show you where these guys are doing their dirty work, because they're doing a lot of it. They are doing their dirty work in very how do I say this? A very large region of this area over here. The reason they're doing this is because, well, they're, how do I say this? They're asses. They don't care. They don't care who these people are. They're just gonna raid them. And to do this, they have these areas under their grasp. But quickly, we also see that they do have some regions over here. Villages that are raided are, well, either burnt down or just they'll keep on getting raided. But as you can see, these guys kind of have their, well, how do I say this? Raiding experience with them, as they use that raiding experience to fight these guys constantly. As you can see, they do cause a lot of damage over here. They do cause a large amount of damage. In fact, one of these nations over here was forced to give up on being a nation, and was actually had its people driven out. Well, not all of its people, but this was made in a slave colony. So these guys have a slave colony now. And they slowly do the same over here, although they do so in very weird ways, as they only take the coastal areas. Some villages they do take over here, like this village complex over here, these villages they take. But the village over in the north, they were thinking of taking it, but they were like, nah, we're not gonna take it. And they quickly just left it alone, while over here they just took this village. And they quickly make themselves quite a nuisance. But after a counterattack and a large amount of fighting, these villages will be liberated by the Neanderthal people. And we will see that afterwards the Neanderthals will see a large amount of counter-raiding by the Neanderthals, and the Neanderthals will call these sapiens soft people or soft men. And the Neanderthals don't really know what these guys are saying, they just don't really care. But after a long time, some of them do learn the languages over here just to call the local Neanderthals like dumbasses, or just call them whatever they want to. And one very funny thing is that after they do so, a large amount of them who do like learn local language, they are like, yo, these guys are actively insulting us. And once they tell them that to their like higher ups, they like their king, the king is just unhappy. And this area is also forced under this guy's force, well, these guys' land, because well, these guys kinda they want the more lands they get, the better. That's for them at least. They have a lot of lands under them, but as we can see, the sapiens have a lot of territory behind their expansionist policies. And due to this expansionist policy of theirs and raiding policy, we see that these guys will go and raid and conquer these areas. Although they do so, they are very, very much not going to attack the areas that kind of just contribute to their economy, like this area over here. This area is given the opportunity to either join or be forcefully invaded, which it kind of just, yo, I'm not gonna no want to be invaded, I'm just gonna give up. And that's what they do, they give up, and they are forced into this whole kingdom. And we quickly also see these areas are also taken, leading to this Constantinople nation. Well, should I call it Byzantium? Maybe. But I think this is the end for this video here. I'm just gonna add one more nation, because why not? And since we're already in the area, in the year 502, a man is born. This man is quite a good man. He's very, very good to his people. His family is very happy. That until he is found by some raiders from one of these nations over here, and he is forced to, well, be a slave, to be exact. And after being forced to become a slave, he's given a name. His name is Namor. He will be called that. But after he escapes, he, as a 16-year-old boy or man, because well, 16 years old is considered a man already, he makes notes on these peoples over here. He makes notes that if they do come across each other, he will do whatever possible to just attack them. He doesn't care who they are, he doesn't care what they want, he will attack them. And he is by far one of the best people of the Mesopotamian regions. And quickly we see that the Mesopotamian people over here will unite under one banner, seeking to not be raided by their own people again, over and over again, as they are constantly being invaded by their brothers and sisters, and they are forced into slavery constantly and are forced to escape it. Very few escape, very few make it back, but the stories that come with them are one of hate and vows of revenge. And revenge is taken, but in the attempts to do so, it's kind of hard to do so. But we see that after a large amount of these villages join up, the Mesopotamian Empire is created. The Mesopotamian Empire will quickly go down south and seek to join up all of its people who have been wronged. It will seek its people to join it. Either they do so willingly, that's up to them. Some are told if they do not join, raiding parties from other areas will be coming after them, and those who have been touched by raiding parties don't really do so. Some, like this area, did immediately, because the word raiding party struck fear in some of the people who were with these guys who were recruiting, and some at the word visibly got tensed up or just got a weird grin of satisfaction on their faces. And that satisfaction was from killing those people. The one who were enslaving them all, their own people. And quickly, we see that the Mesopotamian Empire will go and join its forces and send out 2 large declarations. If its invaders do not stop invading it, do not stop calling it a not meaningful nation, and don't stop taking its lands and its people, these nations will be invaded. Both nations decline, and an army of over 50,000 is sent without a leader. In the first battle of the borders, they are pushed back and they are forced to only remain on the borders to keep later raiding parties out of their lands. But the incoming supply people are being raided regardless, and the supply people are forced to give up. Some of these areas over here who are seeing action being taken will take action as well, joining these people, seeking to not be raided anymore. They're sick of it. And once the Mesopotamian Empire manages to take all of these areas and manages to also push down south where there are some Arab peoples, but the Arabs over here are very friendly towards them. They know what they're going through. They are going through the same thing. A large army will be created. This army will be called the Army of the First. The Army of the First Peoples. The Army of the First Men. This army, I'll have to kind of give this nation a different color again, but it's for a great reason. Trust me, it's for a very great reason. We quickly see that after actually this looks like, you know what? Why not? Why not? This just makes them look out and stand out a lot. Or wait. I'm about to get back to it, wait. Old Empire colors, but who kinda cares? We quickly see a large army will be re-levied, and 2 armies this time will be levied. The first one is called the Army of the True. This army is called that because it has the most amount of forces and it's the largest. But quickly it is downgraded because a second army is made. This second army quickly becomes known as the Army of Revenge. The Army of Savings is named over here. The Army of Saviors is created. And this army takes its size to be the same size as the other one. And as we will see, both of these will be sent into their respective areas, and an invasion of both these areas will be conducted. But before this war begins, I'll have to do a bit of these areas are joined under these areas, so yeah. But we see that after these armies came and were like, yo, if you join us, we'll keep you away from the enemy and we'll defend you. The first invasion began with this Blue Nation, where forces immediately punched into this nation, in the nation's borders, and took over large swaths of territory. This territory was quickly taken over, and the local people over here were like, wait, we're being freed? That was the slaves, by the way. And the local people who met the warriors over here, who actually supported slavery, were deported or who resisted, were killed by spikes. They were dropped in the pit of spikes. Quickly we also see that over here a large force of around 100 was sent, but a raiding party of around 200 sent them back in the fleeing. But once the raiding party encountered the main army, they were forced to stop. Quickly we see that the warriors of this nation of the empire of the Mesopotamian Empire will be aided by forces of the second army of the Mesopotamian Empire. And we quickly see that due to these successes over here, the second army is sent in. Once the army is ready, the order to move out is given, and without any, and I mean any resistance, they reach the town over here, carving a line of blood in the sand. Those who reached over here, who saw their loved ones being hung on the wall in retaliation for the invasion, were invigorated to fight till the end to save their own people. This is known as the Army of Reclamation, the War of the Reclaiming People. A force of around 1,000 was sent down south, and another force of around 200 was sent up north. Well, I'm gonna have to kinda... yeah. This is the whole thing that was here. You know what, I'm just gonna... yeah. The forces that went on to arrive over here were shocked by the sheer amount of forces that they had gathered. The 200 managed to actually be broken off very early into the war, and they weren't ready for the masses of slaves that were freed and joined the army, bolstering its numbers up to 60,000. The army over here being bolstered by allies of Cyprus, and over here, even though these guys don't like each other, Alexandria, Rhodes, Crete, Eastern Crete. These forces were all gathered to make a force around 10,000, and food and other things were also levied. Quickly we see that the rest of these areas were also taken control of, and an invasion force managed to free the last village before they were forced to be forced back. And the second army was forced to also do the same as the first army, and that was fall in the sieging state. But in the terms of growth, they managed to grow their forces even larger, making themselves also another 55,000 army. Even though this one is bigger, I'm not gonna make it bigger because it's kinda, I'm making these sizes like the smallest is like 10,000 to 2,000, actually 2,000, then 10 times that, that's another thing. So yeah. But as we can see, these forces are going to both be on the grip on the side of one, and quickly we see that these two nations will unite to hold off these forces, although uniting will not save them, as the first army breaks through the gates and slaughters the forces over here. Slaves are freed in the mass, and as we can see quickly, large swaths of lands that were either supporting these areas or weren't were forced under the banner, or were willing to join the banner of the Mesopotamian Empire. The Mesopotamian Empire would quickly also manage to gain more lands over here, where slaves conducted a large amount of areas over here. Well, not conducted, but well, forced these areas to join them. And the rest of these forces over here in the north, the rest of the forces, that is, the second army, managed to break through in the southeast, and they managed to push into this area, forcing the last of the forces out of the nation. And much like in this area, the rest of this nation was taken, and the people that managed to survive quickly fled within their advanced ships over here, seeking to bring down the Mesopotamian Empire. Quickly we see that these nations, that these people who managed to escape, will actually very much be forced to see a lot of their own people die in the form of, well, they don't have any food. The Turks the Turks don't know what they're speaking. They speak different language. They have different linguistics. These two peoples, they don't know each other. They don't know each other's language. They don't know how to speak each other's language. And quickly we see, due to this large amount of people that don't know how to speak each other's languages, large amounts of people will die, but large amounts of people will not care. As long as they can make a small nation over here and pretend that they are able to control themselves, they are alright. A slave nation over here will be made that is not dependent on slaves, but isn't fully dependent on the people that it holds, the freed slaves. And it quickly I mean, becomes very popular with the Mesopotamians, as we see large amounts of Mesopotamian people will actually go over into these areas. And as we can see, there are some Mesopotamian people in these areas, but even more will start to arrive and cause havoc. I made sure real quick. We see that after this whole thing, large swaths of Mesopotamian people will go up into these areas and do whatever possible. But we also see that over here, pockets of Mesopotamian people will actually start to form, as the people who are in these villages do not allow the Mesopotamian people to go inside the villages despite being in the same nation. Similarly, people who escaped over here to this island managed to take control of one village, but they quickly were kind of integrated slowly into these areas, and slowly we see that the more western parts were forced back under Greek control. Speaking of Greek control, what the hell is going on here? Oh, I forgot the whole thing is over here. Well, happens. But we quickly see that some of these areas that are more Mesopotamian quickly come under the assumptions that if they are in these areas, they are the superior people, and the Turks who were forced out of these areas start to see very much of a forceful deportation of their own people. And even some villages are raided by the Mesopotamians, which the Mesopotamian rulers don't want, but they don't even stop it. And over time, the Turks learn to actually invade slowly into these Mesopotamian lands, just to keep them out of their own lands. Warrior parties around 15 to 200 are sent out to deal with the forces over here, and quickly we see that the takings of land have been done over a few hundred centuries, well, not centuries, but a few years, and eventually we see that due to this whole area over here being forced on these guys, most of the people over here who were seeking refuge were forced down into even more refuge. And we see that after all of this, the Mesopotamians will start to lose people over here due to Turkic wars. Even though we do see Turkic people not being able to go into the government buildings, as they are full on guarded by armored people, some that are unable to hold those their guards at their doors are forced to be burned. Well, not forced, but are burnt down by the Turkic peoples who come to retaliate. And over here we quickly see that some of these Turkic peoples around over here are brutal in their ways, and they quickly enslave the Mesopotamians over here. And these people who are enslaved finally get a dose of their own, well, medicine. And, well, actually, these are still Mesopotamian. Shit, I think we're gonna get the large Mesopotamian Empire. But that also marks the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching, and as you guys can see, we have a lot of new stuff happening. We have nations in these areas. I'm not gonna talk about these areas a lot, but sometimes I'm gonna talk about these areas. But yeah, see you guys next time. If you liked the video, pick up. Oh my god, it's another hour. This is gonna be another special video, isn't it?